The Angelus bell chimed across Rome, its ancient tones amplified and broadcast, a sound woven from centuries of faith and history. Its resonance traveled on the very airwaves that pulsed, unseen and intricate, with the silent language of the digital age, global finance, instant communication, vast data streams carrying the weight of modern life. Deep within the Vatican's modern infrastructure, shielded by meters of ancient stone and state-of-the-art security, Isabella Rossi heard its chime, a familiar anchor in her complex world. Her workspace, a blend of the Vatican's enduring architecture and the cool, clean lines of 21st century technology, felt like the edge of two eras. The relentless hum of servers was a constant backdrop to the glow of monitors displaying complex data visualizations. A small, well-worn copy of the Catechism peeked from beneath a stack of technical manuals on her desk, and a simple silver crucifix, perhaps a gift from her confirmation, was pinned discreetly to the wall beside her largest screen. Small, personal talismans in a space dedicated to abstract threats. Isabella's role was a demanding fusion of ancient vigilance and cutting-edge technique. A unique vocation forged in the heart of an institution whose history granted it both the mandate and the capacity to look beyond the immediate. As a sharp, rising analyst in the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, CDF, she served in the Digital Oversight section, a modern evolution of historical bodies tasked with identifying and countering doctrinal threats. Her work was a form of digital paleography, deciphering meaning and intent from fragmented, often obfuscated online texts, combined with theological epidemiology, tracking the spread of dangerous ideas through the global information network like a pathogen. She monitored vast digital flows, public forums, academic papers, news reports, deeply encrypted groups, scientific publications, artistic manifests, even the whispered conversations of dark web communities. Using advanced AI and sophisticated data analysis, her current major project demanded her full attention. It focused on philosophical and ethical arguments related to advanced genetic engineering and the rapidly accelerating development of artificial consciousness, fields largely operating outside the Church's direct institutional control in secular labs, corporate research centers, and decentralized online communities. Yet these areas held profound implications for the Church's understanding of human life and creation, applying long-standing doctrine, rooted in the sanctity of life from conception, the unique nature of the human soul, and the concept of humanity created in the divine image, to the breathtaking pace and scope of innovation in these fields, posed continuous, complex ethical and theological challenges. Was consciousness merely an emergent property of complex biological or silicon-based systems? Could humanity ethically redesign itself or create new forms of sentient life? These were not just philosophical questions. They struck at the very heart of what it meant to be human in God's creation. One afternoon, as the Angelus bell began to fade, the AI flagged a pattern that transcended typical secular bioethical debate. Isabella felt a prickle of unease, a cold dread that began subtly and grew as the data coalesced. It wasn't a single source or a contained discussion, but a convergence of arguments emerging almost simultaneously from seemingly disconnected digital communities across continents. Bioinformatics forums debated the ethical imperative of human germline editing to perfect the species. Encrypted discussion groups debated the potential rights and ensoulment of future sentient AI, positing computational capacity as the sole criterion for personhood. Philosophical blogs proposed radical new ethical frameworks entirely divorced from traditional religious or humanistic concepts. Artistic collectives explored post-humanism and digital transcendence in ways that denied the physical body and the traditional soul. Analyzed together, these disparate threads formed a surprisingly cohesive ethical framework for life creation and consciousness that fundamentally contradicted core church doctrines. Arguments appeared not just questioning, but actively dismantling the unique dignity of divinely created human life, positing consciousness as merely an emergent algorithm of sufficient complexity, or asserting a human right even duty, to radically engineer life and create new conscious entities, sentient machines, or digital beings, without regard for traditional concepts of soul or the imago Dei. This felt less like spontaneous academic discussion and undeniably more like a deliberate, coordinated intellectual movement. Cross-reference origin patterns, she instructed the AI, her voice tight with urgency. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, the rapid click-clack, a sharp contrast to the silent complexity of the data she was navigating. Analyze propagation vectors. Is this influencing mainstream discourse? Look for funding trails or infrastructure signatures. She ran a tired hand through her short haircut, a small, unconscious gesture of stress. She took a sip of lukewarm coffee, seeking a familiar anchor in the swirling abstract threat. Her mind raced, connecting the dots between abstract philosophy and a tangible threat to the Church's core understanding of existence, and more personally, to the very people whose souls it sought to guide. This wasn't just data, it was an assault on what she believed, on what her faith taught about the inherent, unrepeatable value of every human being, from conception to natural death, distinct from any machine. The AI's analysis confirmed wide accelerating dispersion, the ideas seeping insidiously into mainstream digital media, news commentary, popular science articles, online ethical discussions. More disturbingly, the source patterns were heavily obscured. Complex encryption, routing through opaque decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, making financial tracing nearly impossible, and hosting on networks of independent servers strategically designed for evasion. It was a deliberate, well-funded, technically advanced dissemination architecture, built not just to share ideas, but to meticulously hide their coordinated origin and rapid spread. Frustration tightened Isabella's jaw. Her eyes narrowed as the system logs showed her probes hitting digital walls. This wasn't just confronting dangerous ideas. It was confronting an adversary actively resisting detection, an intelligence hiding in digital shadows. It hinted at significant resources, potentially state-level capabilities, or immense private funding from transhumanist billionaires. This was a formidable, organized global opponent. She felt the digital resistance like a physical force, the system pushing back against her probes, cryptographic keys changing mid-analysis, server locations hopping unpredictably, torrents of dummy data flooding her channels like digital ink designed to blind and confuse. It was a fight, line by line of code, algorithm against algorithm, a silent war waged in the heart of the network. She meticulously compiled her findings, summarizing the core arguments of the networked heresy, detailing the technical obfuscation methods, outlining the propagation patterns, and highlighting the sheer technical sophistication involved. She escalated the anomaly immediately to her superior, Monsignor Marco Peretti. Blending profound digital understanding with deep historical knowledge, Monsignor Peretti examined the report displayed on his own screen, his gaze moving from the complex data map to Isabella's face, acknowledging the gravity of her discovery. He traced the outline of the cross on his cassock, a quiet gesture of faith amidst the data storm swirling around them. A networked heresy, he mused, the phrase a stark marriage of ancient concept and modern threat. Invisible printing presses, yes, but more insidious. Decentralized arguments spreading like a virus, adapting, evading. The form changes across millennia, Isabella. But the fundamental challenge, redefining reality, humanity, morality, outside of divine truth, remains precisely the same. He gestured to the screen, his expression grave. Gnostics used hidden scrolls and secret knowledge circles. The reformers leveraged the printing press and public pamphlets. And now, encrypted algorithms, decentralized networks, weaponized philosophy, targeting the very definition of the human person, the very concept of a soul. He sighed, the sound carrying the weight of the Church's unending struggle against error and falsehood. Here, the profound historical context that shaped the Vatican's unique position began to unfold, not as a dry recitation, but as living background for their present challenge. a shared history that defined their resilience. Monsignor Peretti continued, his voice gaining depth, drawing parallels across centuries. This battle is not new, Isabella. What is new is the speed and the scale enabled by technology. Yet, the Church has faced revolutionary information shifts and existential threats to its authority before. Think of the 14th century. At a moment of immense political pressure, the papacy faced the temptation of exile, of abandoning Rome for Avignon. Our history tells a different story precisely because a line of popes refused. They chose Rome, solidified our temporal power through shrewd governance and loyal forces, navigated political storms with resolve. Without abandoning Peter's See, he paused, letting the weight of those centuries fill the air in the high-tech room. This defiance, this unbroken presence here in Rome, prevented the schism that tore the Church apart in our timeline, producing rival popes and undermining our authority for decades. It meant we faced a printing revolution centuries later, not as a divided, weakened institution, still recovering from internal conflict, but as a unified, resourceful force. We didn't just ban books, Isabella, though that was a tool. We used the press ourselves. We established our own presses. We published standardized theological texts. We disseminated official decrees. We printed sophisticated counter-arguments to the ideas of the reformers, engaging directly in the print wars of the era. That capacity for rapid adaptation, for engaging new technologies from a position of fundamental unity and authority rooted here in Rome, is our legacy. It's why we are here now with these systems, able to even see this threat forming in the digital ether. He gestured around the room. This infrastructure, this network, this continuity of purpose, it's the direct result of that unbroken chain of authority, that refusal to yield our central place. And this networked heresy, it's a direct challenge to that legacy. It bypasses traditional gatekeepers, spreads virally, seeks to redefine humanity itself outside of divine truth. Monsignor Peretti's words underscored the weight of the task ahead. This was more than a technical problem. It was an ancient spiritual battle manifesting on a terrifyingly new battlefield. He locked eyes with Isabella. Your algorithms found the what and how. Now, find the who. Not just the technical architecture, the servers, the code, but the human element driving this. Look for central points of command, recurring digital fingerprints that betray identity despite the obfuscation, any slips and anonymization. This is a digital hunt, yes, but understand its true nature, tracking the architects of this new Tower of Babel, those who seek to build their own version of creation and meaning to rival God's plan for humanity. This task presented the first active challenge beyond passive analysis. Probing the hidden networks more aggressively triggered immediate, sophisticated defenses designed to detect and thwart investigation. Cryptographic keys changed instantly, server locations hopped unpredictably across jurisdictions, and torrents of dummy data flooded channels, specifically engineered to overwhelm analysis systems and bury any meaningful trace. Isabella felt the digital resistance like a deliberate, malicious intelligence. Not true consciousness, but a highly advanced, automated counterforce. She spent hours locked in digital skirmishes, writing complex scripts on the fly, deploying new algorithms to parse the noise, trying to find the subtle patterns in the countermeasures that might reveal the adversary's tactics or underlying infrastructure. Her shoulders tensed, her eyes burned from the screen glow, but a fierce determination solidified within her. This wasn't just a technical puzzle anymore. It was a high-stakes, high-speed digital battle against an opponent with seemingly vast resources and expertise, potentially mirroring or even exceeding state-level capabilities. It was the feeling of fighting a ghost that left only digital static in its wake. Responding effectively to a threat of this scale and nature demanded unprecedented Holy See coordination. Leveraging the very integrated global structure built on its history of uninterrupted authority. Consultations began discreetly with the Secretariat of State and the Apostolic Service to assess potential diplomatic implications if the adversary was linked to a state or powerful international entity. preparing for potential political fallout. Theologians within the CDF and other congregations began the complex work of formulating precise counter-arguments, drawing on millennia of doctrine, papal encyclicals, and conciliar documents to articulate the Church's understanding of the human person, the nature of consciousness, the ethics of altering the human blueprint, and the concept of a soul in a technological age in a way that could speak to the new questions raised by the networked heresy. The Church's global educational network, its thousands of universities, seminaries, and schools, would need to be mobilized to prepare the faithful and engage the wider world with reasoned, theologically sound responses to these emerging challenges. While her primary focus was the live digital hunt, Isabella immersed herself in historical archives, not just digital records, but physical manuscripts and early printed books in the quiet, cavernous halls of the Vatican Library. The smell of aged paper and leather filled the air, a grounding presence. She studied accounts of the Church's response to the printing revolution in the late 15th and early 16th centuries. She learned how the unified Church of that era, unburdened by schism and operating from a position of strength, didn't just react with fear or outright bans, although censorship tools like the Index later developed. Crucially, it utilized the new technology itself as a tool for evangelization and defense of doctrine. It established its own presses throughout Europe. It disseminated standardized theological texts and devotional materials. It published official decrees and papal bulls rapidly, and it printed sophisticated counter-arguments to the ideas of the reformers, engaging directly and proactively in the print wars of the era. This history of rapid, intelligent adaptation to transformative information technology, meeting a new medium with its own output, was a crucial lesson. The Church had faced print not as a fractured, fearful entity, but as a unified, resourceful, proactive force, capable of using new tools for its ancient mission. This historical precedent resonated deeply with Isabella, fueling her resolve. If they adapted then, facing a technological shift that changed the very flow of information, they could adapt now, facing the digital ocean. For Isabella, this was far more than professional duty. It was profoundly personal. She saw the networked heresy, with its attempts to reduce human life and consciousness to mere processes or algorithms, as a direct assault on the dignity and spiritual nature of humanity as understood by centuries of faith and revealed truth. Her faith was not abstract doctrine, but a living understanding of the human person, created in God's image, possessing an eternal soul, unique and irreplaceable, distinct from biology or computation. The heresy sought to strip away that sacred essence, threatening the core of her belief and identity, and the identity of everyone. Safeguarding that truth felt like protecting not just church doctrine, but the very essence of what it meant to be human in a world increasingly defined by data and algorithms. Every line of code she wrote, every data pattern she analyzed, every evasive maneuver she tried to trace, felt like a skirmish in this ancient yet terrifyingly new conflict. She thought of her younger cousins, scrolling through feeds saturated with these ideas online, vulnerable to a philosophy that could convince them they were nothing more than complex machines. That thought sharpened her focus, lending a fierce urgency to her work, pushing back against the weariness in her eyes. Managing faith, truth, and meaning in 2025, amidst information deluge and existential technological questions, demanded vigilance, profound knowledge, and nuanced understanding. Isabella's work felt like a modern echo of ancient struggles, a continuation of the Church's 2,000-year effort to guide humanity towards truth amidst confusion and error. Her discovery of the networked heresy, the challenge of uncovering its hidden architects, was a stark reminder that dangerous ideas persisted, constantly seeking new forms and channels to spread. The Church's capacity to respond, its practice of engaging new challenges from a position of stable authority rooted in Rome, was being tested in the digital realm. That adaptable force, forged by millennia of continuity and resilience, endured. Monsignor Peretti nodded, his expression grave but determined. "Thank you, Isabella. You've done exceptional work bringing this to light. The scale and sophistication are precisely as you assessed." He reached for his tablet, his movements precise, the the gesture carrying the weight of command. We need to initiate the response immediately. The hour is late, and this threat grows exponentially. He tapped the screen, navigating through secure menus, finding the necessary contact. In the quiet hum of the Digital Oversight Center, punctuated only by the fading memory of the Angelus chime and the soft click of Isabella's keyboard as she opened new analysis windows, the first ring of a secure line echoed. It was a sound that marked the true beginning of an invisible war, a global digital hunt for the architects seeking to redefine humanity itself. The Church, from its ancient heart in Rome, was engaging the enemy on the new battlefield. The hunt for the soul of the 21st century had begun,